Morning, everyone. This is Trend Follower this side, and it's that time of the week. Today we'll plan for this week. Um, I wouldn't lie, last week was tough for me because of wrong bias, but part of the game. Uh, but we did very well with respect to futures. So before going into the plan for this week, I just wanted to get some logistics out in terms of being honest about the trading part, where last week I was saying NZDCHF and AUDCHF can bounce. They really didn't follow the trend on monthly part of the game, I guess. So that's where we went wrong. But with respect to futures, I think we did pretty good. So I just wanted to show quick things like basically I have a Discord room where I share my thoughts. Right now there is no participation, but my job is to give my thoughts out and share the trades that I see. So just wanted to show some of the trades that I saw this week. Uh, was something like this, where I said we should come back here on ES, and we did. If you see ES and Q, if you check that 4 hour, I was pointing at this area. It just came down and broke that. So that was ES, and then I pointed on 6S future, which is like the CHF futures, that I think I will take this trade. I got my 2 hour here. And similarly, there was one more where I got 2 hour on CHF again. So CHF was traded twice, and this was JPY, where I said that this is the zone where I think it can go down, and I had a limit order placed. We took 3 hour there. So this was before, this is after when it was continuing. But if you see in particular on that futures chart, basically, I hope I haven't removed that zone. It was a 1 hour chart, and what I said was right in this zone. This was the zone, right? So here I think. Point being like it's a great room to, understand the thoughts and get some trades also in that process. Now that the logistics are out, let's plan this week. Before planning, I always like to look at news, so we'll do that. With respect to news, we have these news in the week, but what I really care about is the initial part where RBA statement would be out. So this one is pretty important, right? It's a rate statement, so always the most important thing I would say. So Australian dollar can be volatile this week. Then CHF CPI can be volatile this week. So these two are the major ones that I care about, right? So Australian dollar NZD can also get affected, right? So in terms of trades, what I really care about, before even watching the news, I had my thoughts on NZD. And with respect to NZD, I'm very priced on it, and that would be the main focus on NZD, which means when you're whatever bias you have on NZD and Australian dollar, mostly the other bias should be for your JPY and CHF. So I do think JPY and CHF can bounce this week at least. I also do think maybe by the end of the week they may reverse because of the weekly chart patterns that I see. But that's my thought process here. Now, before diving too much into that, I wanted to just start with DXY, and then it will all make sense. So DXY, not surprising at all. As I said last week, that I didn't think that you can just go down right this way. So right now DXY is at no particular location. What I mean by that is it took this weekly liquidity. Will it just come down from here or will it bounce? We don't know. Uh, of course, the trend is down right now for DXY. So I have my thought process on DXY is generally that okay, we'll wait and watch right now because I want more information to understand that does it like just a small bounce here doesn't tell me anything. Does it do this and we can play this? or does it do this and we can play this, right? I don't know. But what my area of interest is, if it breaks this weekly high, there's a nice 4 hour zone here, right here. So I really care about this 4 hour supply. I think there is a probability that we go here. That's my thought process. And at least if you see, there is this one which hasn't been properly tested, so maybe we bounce from, we go there and then come back down. Point being, like DXY is something that I am not very clear about, at least with the information I have right now. My first thought process is it should bounce from here, like a little pullback and then can bounce from here. Uh, Now will it do this? Will it do this? I don't know. So I don't think it's one of the high probability ones. So that's where DXY stands. Next, I wanted to start with some of the interesting futures chart that I see. One is NZD. As I said, NZD is the most interesting one to me. I'm bearish biased on it right now. I do think it has the potential to uh, come down further. There is a chance, and when that happens, you can really plan it well. Now, of course, there is a downside here, which is, whenever there's this long wick, this acts like drawn liquidity. So what can happen is you pull back and then you come down and then do something. I don't know. Point being, the risk here is that this long wick can act like drawn liquidity. So what it means is, what you can see is, let's say this is the liquidity grab. You come here, right? Then you come here and then come here and then do something, right? So, but that, if you understood what I said, is most probably it is gonna test this area. And the trade that I really like is, you see, this is a previous weekly low. This three uh, candle pattern basically forms like a weekly supply with a long wick. Now, I do agree that there is a chance that this can be tested, but there is a trade probability here that if we test this area, it can grab this liquidity and at least come here. That would be my first target. Second target would be here. So I think what you can do is entry here, stop loss above this, and come down here. But point being, with NZD futures, this zone is very important, very important. And that's what my primary focus would be with respect to NZD, right? So now it will all make sense. I started with NZD because uh, I think this one is the most cleanest chart for me, at least. There is a chance that it may bounce, but right now what I'm saying is the area of interest is here, and you will see how we'll use this area of interest. So next is, and as we are in this, let me set alert area of interest. Okay, let me. Okay, now the second one is JPY, as I mentioned, right? So with JPY, I said that I do think it can bounce a little. One of the reasons I said that is what this bounce is from a weekly region. Now I did also mention that I don't think that it will continue going up. I think if you look at the monthly, it will make sense. But what I see here is a weekly fair value gap, right? So my thought process right now is JPY comes back in terms of futures, comes down here, goes up here, and then this is my POI. It can reject anywhere in this region here, right? So you can see something like this. Uh, but I am really focusing on this region, right? So uh, in particular, I am focusing on that region. So yeah, so point being, like, this is the region that I'm really concentrating on. But JPY can just uh, go here and come down, right? But I do think that JPY this week, at least initial part of the week, can act strong. Am I playing that? Not really. What I'm concentrating on is uh, this area, right? Because this area is below this weekly pivot, right? There's that weekly demand. So if it comes down here, that's good. Or this area. So if it comes down here, I will be bullish JPY. If it comes here, I will be bearish JPY, right? I don't like this. I will use this only. So if it comes here, I think this, right? If it comes here, I think this. So that is JPY. Next is I want to concentrate on not euro, Australian dollar. Yeah. So what is interesting to me with Australian dollar is, like again, this took the weekly liquidity last week. It had a chance to go up. It didn't, right? So I think what can happen with Australian dollar is if it bounces, let's say DXY acts weak, and if it bounces right here, then that's a good area for me because you have this long weekly wick. But my first first area of interest is right here, which has been tested already. This one. So if it comes back on Monday, this can really go well with these kind of liquidity. I think it can. My point is generally what I would try to do is I would I would try to not play this before the RBI statement, and my reason is it's on Monday, so there's like lot of action possible after that. You will get a lot of chances, and if it just comes from here, there's too much draw on liquidity, and I'm not very confident on DXY, right? So DXY will mainly give us true information later in the week, I think, right? So that's why I don't love this chart so much right now. But I wanted to say that if it bounces, right, my area of interest isn't here. One is here. This is really good on daily. But if it really bounces, then my true area of interest, I mean, then you are kind of going away with the plan because ideally, if you're bearish, this should not cross this zone. Let me remove these. Ah, because this weekly block, ideally, if you're bearish, right? So this should not cross this block. Now, again, if it's really bearish, right? Remember this. If it's really bearish, so it has already taken this eight weekly liquidity, so it can just come down, right? And then during this RBA statement, maybe there is manipulation and it can do that. So again, as I said, what I will do is 8 hour here. If it comes, I will enter here, comes back, I will enter here and then let it go. And before at trade statement or something, I can put a stop loss. Because what can happen is it does this, comes here, and after RBA statement, it can continue down. And that's a big one that's a pattern that I'm seeing in multiple names. Like when I say that, I mean Australian dollar names. That what can really happen on this week is you start the week with this coming down and the statement manipulates and then we continue down. There is a good chance of that happening. I just wanted to make sure you understand that there is a probability of that happening, right? All right. So I clarified NZD, which was very important to me, JPY, which was important, and Australian dollar. So mainly take care of this one, NZD, right? So now we'll look into some charts where it will make sense, right? So first, I want to start with GBPNZD. What I really like about GBPNZD here uh, is so NZD has this kind of pattern everywhere that if it comes down, like depending on which name you're looking at, if it comes below previous day low or above previous day high, then it can be a very good trade. And that should happen on mostly all the names. What will happen then is it should bounce this way. My my area of interest here is that there's a 12-hour supply here, which I really like. That is my area of interest here. So I think what can happen is it can come down and then go up here, right? So that is GBPNZD. There is a probability here, which what I see happening is all of these names, like the trend is very strong on this, right? So the move can be big before, I don't know, pull back or something. Now, I think one of the reasons my trading has really improved is whenever I go in a trade, I look, I understand all the in and outs of that trade. And I think it's important for you guys to also know that, right? So what I mean by that is, remember the good thing about this zone here is there is an overlapping weekly demand level here. So this whole thing, I'm considering this as a weekly demand. So I think what you may see is something like this. On daily, this will look like something like this, right? So that's what I really think about it. My primary area of interest would be this. Below this daily low, I think it can really go on. So that's what I would like to see on GBP NZD. There is a probability that if GBP acts really weak, there is a 4-hour area of interest also here, right? But I do think that uh, that's a tough one according to the pattern. Like later in the week, sure, it can happen, but at least start of the week, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think I want to see just this. And then I'm not planning to hold this till all the way. So when it tests this, then I may think about something else. Like what I mean by that, right? So if we come here. I mean, what is important, I should say, is if ICT traders, right? Uh, this is very extreme bullish order flow. What I mean by that is there's a daily demand, right, which it bounced from. From ICT world, there is FPG, which it bounced from. So what I think is we are testing this area, and ideally that happens on Monday itself. Monday, as in like on Monday, it reverses from test this, and on Tuesday we come here or Wednesday we come here. So GBP NZD is that trade. Let's look at Euro NZD. Uh, Euro NZD has this uh, weekly bearish candle. The area is significantly uh, fresh. So what I really like here is this area, right? So yes, I am saying that it can pull back to this. So I'm not like I wouldn't say that I'm extremely confident about it because these two names are extremely bullish. So what my uh, thought process here is if it can come in so let me show you this weekly level. Yeah, so there are two weekly levels I'm interested in. One is the order block high, like the bearish candle high, or I should say last open. And these two weekly lines I really care about. And if you look at these two weekly lines, then there are two areas here. One is this one, right? So if it can pull back to this, that would be awesome. Uh, one is where did 8 hour go? Yeah, so one is this 8 hour, right? So I think it can really come here. Now keep in mind if I use this whole 8 hour, right, then I will not feel very confident because the reason I will not is because of this stop loss in here. And I think there is a 4 hour also, right? So this one is the trade which I really, really like, that if it can come down here, that's the perfect trade for me. So Euro NZD, I think I wanted to come here and then I will play it, right? So this is a very clean chart for me. This is what I'm waiting for on Euro NZD. In terms of drawn liquidity, I would, if you see on 12 hour again, I will exit this trade if I get a chance to enter. I will exit this trade once it reaches here especially if it reaches for GBPNZD, because that's what I think. Like, it is possible that this whole thing is a drawn liquidity, but my exit would be either here or either here, depending on what's the action, like what kind of candles are we building when we come here. But I think this week we are looking at something like this. Now let's look at GBP odd in this Australian dollar. As I said, GBP Australian dollar and Euro Australian dollar, I do see a pattern. These charts are also very clean. If you see, it took a weekly, it bounced from a weekly demand. In here, what I really care about is this 8 hour, same pattern as I showed in, I think it was USD, right? So in this, I really care, I really like this one. The reason I like this one is if there is a probability, as I said, that what can happen is you really don't pull back a lot this week on Australian dollar. So that's what my thought process is, that maybe we never pull back a lot, right? So if we come back here, I would like to see the price action here. And if it matches with Australian dollar futures that I just showed, then I think there is a good probability that you really don't see a huge pullback. What you see is just boom, right? So if there is a part of me which would be, that's my first area of interest, and second area of interest is there are equal lows here, and this matches with this weekly line. So I think if price action can come here or here, right? Ideally just from here, I would put a stop loss here, enter here, and my target would be the high of week, right? So these are the two area of interest that I really care about in GBP Australian dollar and Euro Australian dollar, right? Uh, Similar to Euro NZD, this is the trade I'm already in. This was shared on Twitter, not Twitter, Discord room, that this is my area of interest here. I'll have to check I will open Discord in parallel and show what I mean by that. But we can always do that later. Point being, uh, what if it comes back here? I really like this trade, where there is a 4 hour zone here, right? Uh, I think let me show you the here. So this 4 hour zone also is the reason I entered also this chart was exactly that. Matches with the bullish engulfing area, right? So if it comes back here, which I don't think it may come, right, then I will look for it. The other way to play this chart, because I again think this is a great chart, is if you see this is a daily demand. So when you have that kind of structure, let me create this daily areas, this right daily lines, and if you look at 8 hour, it matches perfectly, right? So what I mean by that is if Australian dollar comes to that futures chart at the right region, uh, then I may play this. So what I would like to see here is either Australian dollar coming there, or, or at least Euro and NZD coming here. Will it happen? I don't know. Uh, like it's I don't think it may happen. The reason I say that is if you see what you're expecting of Euro Australian dollar is it should, like, let's say we are uh, we think we can come here, then what you are expecting is basically it will break all this to come there, right? That may or may not happen, right? So instead, what I will do is I will see if Euro NZD comes here, then I can play Euro Australian dollar or Euro NZD. Right? I will only play one of those because they may both get affected. I will really like to play. My priority this week would be to play at least at least before the RBA news, to play NZD more than Australian dollar, just because obviously, right? And after the news, maybe I can play something like these names, right? But uh, my area of interest, I still care a lot about this one. here. But if, the way I see it is, if price action confirms that this zone is being tested by multiple names together, like for example, where is that? Like let's say Euro NZD comes here together with Euro AUD, Australian dollar at any point, then maybe, right? So that's why I like to specify these zones, so that you really understand how I play them and how you can play them. But if you want the best zone, it's here. So again, let's clarify. GBPNZD, I really like this zone here. Euro NZD, here there is a 4 hour zone which is very clean, very very clean, just below the weekly area. So that one I really like. GBP Australian dollar, again, there is an 8 hour zone which I really like. Look, what I would mention in Australian dollar generally is, because I like to trade, do swing trades, and you may think, oh, but if you take this trade, you are basically saying there's no pullback and weekly, and it can go up. The reason most I calculate very strongly, and I think there is a good probability that can happen this week. That's why I'm saying that maybe, sticking to that theory. If it happens, then what you will do is you'll enter here and exit at the top at least, right? It may continue further, but I think there is a possibility that this week we test this higher week. Uh, and similarly for Euro Australian dollar, I think this week we test here. We at least test here, I should say, right? So that's what I think. So yeah, these four names are my first priority. Next would be again the same pattern on NZD and this not NZD, sorry, this guy. Um, which one was it? I will show you in a minute. But point being, NZD, I really like this 12-hour chart. If it comes here, right, this is what I'm planning to play on NZD, right? Again, if you see everywhere the pattern is that NZD on Monday, or like basically Monday's candle may just give a nice bounce to NZD before continuing further down. So I think with that pattern in mind, this chart pattern is being shown everywhere. But the way I will trade it is with NZD, my first Friday is GBP NZD and Euro NZD, one of those. And if this matches with the futures chart. Uh, so with Australian dollar JPY, this has already tested this liquidity. But one thing I always say is like never, um, I can never confidently say, oh, it will not go back here, right? So if on Monday NZD bounces, Australian dollar most probably will bounce too. And if I get this test, I will play this, right? That's Australian dollar, um, JPY. Now, Australian dollar USD, again, the same idea as I showed in the futures chart. I really care about this. As I said, USD is something I'm not very confident about in terms of because of DXY, but I do think if I take this, the probability is that it may just continue going down. The reason I say that is, remember, if this happens, right, that means it is happening due to taking a weekly liquidity when RBA statement is coming out. When there is lot of liquidity, you have a trend line, you have equal lows. So I think there is a good probability that we continue going down. Uh, at least till here, I would say. Like that's my thought process, at least for now. Uh, and that's what my plan is for this week. Now, NZD USD, the same pattern, which is very beautiful, is I think what can happen is if it tests this region, then you may continue see it going down. The way I will trade it is on my prop firms futures account, I will trade NZD USD, but on others, I really prefer Euro NZD and GBP NZD more than NZD US, any NZD name. Those are my top two. I think the charts there are just damn clean. So that would be my first priority. The next one I wanted to show was NZDCAD. The reason I like this name is because it does have like a little bit of problem, like because it has tested this weekly block. So will it bounce from here or will it come down? But because I'm bearish biased on NZD, I think there is this, where did this? Yeah, there's this trend line. So what you may see is something like this. So this is the zone I really care about, which is previous day, like basically if it breaks previous day high. So if you see, let me remove this. I think what is really happening is I think we are making this trend line. So what may happen is it may test this and continue going down. So let me just make it here. Okay, so I think this is what's happening. So that's my area of interest on NZD CAD. Now NZDCHF, I mentioned in the uh, at the start of the video, right? Like basically CHF. Firstly, what I mentioned at the start of the video or mid video is like if I'm biased to the whatever side on Australian dollar and NZD, then it would be other way on JPY and CHF, right? And we just said, JPY, CHF has CPI news too. And JPY, um, JPY or I forgot. But point being, what is interesting about NZD CHF, right, and AUD CHF is we were thinking that it may bounce. Now, this one has taken weekly liquidity, right? And if you look at NZD CHF, it has taken made this weekly supply. Now, of course, sometimes I would think, oh, there's this weekly block, so can we bounce from here? But just follow the trend is the rule, which I would say a little bit that I was being over smart and I maybe broke it last week, but I wouldn't do that right again. So here what I really like is this chart. Keep in mind CHF has CPI news also. So what can really happen is something like this. Now, other thing which I would mention is if let's say we continue going down and there's no bounce in NZD, which I doubt, right? This zone can be tested multiple times maybe. The reason I think is GBP CHF. If CHF is really strong this week, and let's say it comes here, right? That can be yeah. So if it comes here, let's say CHF is weaker at the start of the week or something, and GBP is stronger or whatever, right? Point being, like when it comes here, that's the zone which is very clean. Look at this, all this consolidation. Look at that down move. So the moment CHF comes here, it should come down further. But I may not trade GBP CHF at that time. If it happens this week, I will trade NZD CHF at that time, right? So that's my thought process on CHF. That I really like NZD CHF on that front also. So this would be the zone that I really care about. Uh, the last one in particular, I don't think I want to talk much about USD JPY as such. Is this down move? ES and NQ. Oh, this is very old. Let me remove this. So ES and NQ futures. This is very important to understand. I got really happy at the start of the week because what I was seeing was maybe the monthly will close strong. It didn't, right? Now, what is important for us to notice is let's not try to call the top and bottom right now. And the reason I say that is with ES, there is what I think is happening is not ES, it's way more cleaner on NQ. Look at those equal highs, equal lows here. So I think NQ is coming down here. So let's not get in front of, like this down move and try to call bottom. Which brings me to my next point. Uh, it wasn't surprising to me that we came down here. I really was almost 100%. I shouldn't say 100 with market, but 18% sure that it is coming down to this region. But I wasn't thinking that it's coming down here. What's important for us to note is with ES and NQ, specifically NQ, has clear drawn liquidity. It has almost equal lows. So what my area of interest is this daily candle here, which has formed a great supply. So I really would care about this one, and on ES this one, right? So that's where ideally they both enter this region together. So with ES, I think there is, if you want the most ideal situation, it would be it breaks the previous day high, comes in this vacuum, and comes down. I would preferably trade NQ in this because NQ has clear drawn liquidity, right? So that would be my first criteria. The other would be YM also has almost clear drawn liquidity, depending on if it bounces on Monday or not. Again, the same idea. Uh, with I would prefer that YM and Russell comes together, or ES or NQ comes together on these areas. So this would be my first, not first, this would be my trade plan for this week. My first priority would be NZD names. The second would be ES and NQ. That's where I majorly will concentrate. I hope this video helped, guys. I hope I tried to reduce noise further. I should say, I did try on this video. We'll just look at particular names according to probabilities. And this week, the main focus should be NZD. I hope you liked this video. I hope it helped. Please feel free to join the Discord community. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter. I try to provide as much value as I can. Again, if you need more value, ask for it, and I'm ready to help. Have a good trading week, guys. Stay safe.